Okay, let me tell you a little bit about a couple different spices that you can have. They're blends that you can have in your kitchen. They make it fun to just bump up things that you're making. The first one is a gingerbread spice mix. We don't sell it like this, so what you're gonna do is mix this yourself and put your own in a little container, and it'd be great for gifts too for your neighbors. But go ahead and just put it in a container, and I'll tell you, it's got ginger, allspice, it has cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg, and a little bit of pepper, and that's what gives it a little bit of a kick. It's great for pumpkin pies, it works on squash, so if you're cooking squash in the oven, you could sprinkle a little bit of this on there. It will spike up your coffee if you drink coffee or hot cocoa. Waffles, it would be really good, and just throw a little, probably like a teaspoon in your pancake mix for waffles, and it'd be great. And then also whipped cream. You can whip up your whipped cream and then put a little bit of flavoring in there, especially for pumpkin pie. That would be fun at Thanksgiving. And then the second one is the pumpkin pie spice. And we do sell a pumpkin pie spice, but if you'd rather, you can make your own. This has cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, and cloves. Very similar to the gingerbread, but the gingerbread has a lot more ginger and has the allspice in it. Now, a secret tip for you, we don't carry allspice, but you can make your own allspice, because it's a substitute for allspice, and it is equal parts of nutmeg, cinnamon, and cloves. And so if you want to put 2 tablespoons of each in there, and it'll make you enough to do your recipe, but that will be your own allspice. Now, there's a couple other things, other ideas we can do with these seasonings, and so I'm going to go ahead and start those. And the one I want to talk to you a little bit about is infused sugars. They're like all the rave now, and I've never really known about them, but I kind of studied a little bit on them and found them. And I want to give credit to the Pioneer Woman, because it was her website that I found a lot of these fun recipes on, and you're going to get those in the PDF. But on the infused sugars, there's so many flavors that you can do with infused sugars, and I went ahead too. She had so many fun different kinds of jars that you can store them in and give them as gifts. I found these at Hobby Lobby, and they just look so cute, and you put your little labels on them and then give this as a gift or keep it on your shelf. So there's a few different ones. I went ahead and did the vanilla sugar, and I'm going to do it for you today and show you how easy it is. Now, infusing, what happens is you usually put your seasonings or your spice in the sugar, and then you let it stay it takes about 5 days to be able to soak up some of the flavor from the spice. Or if you want to jumpstart that, you can use your dry spices to infuse the sugar too. So I went ahead today and used the dry vanilla, whereas normally you could use a vanilla bean, and you would just fill your jar with sugar and then put a couple of vanilla beans in there and let it sit for about 5 days, and then you go ahead and take your vanilla bean out when it's all infused, and the flavor, will be in that sugar. So to make the vanilla sugar, I just went ahead and used our Allison's Pantry vanilla, the powdered vanilla, and you use it, the standard that she makes them with is 4:1. So you would want 4 times the sugar as you do have for the spice. And so I put in, this has got 8 tablespoons of sugar, and then I'm just going to put 2 tablespoons of the vanilla powder in there. Look how easy that is. And vanilla powder, and then you just take a lid, and you can actually use a spoon to stir it up, but if you want, you can just shake it in the jar and stir it up. And then you have your vanilla sugar. Now, vanilla sugar is great for steamed milk. If you want to make, I have a little dust going on here. If you want a little milk, you can, she dips it in glasses. If you're going to serve a really pretty glass, you can dip the edge of it in the vanilla sugar. You can add it any place you would normally add sugar, you add vanilla sugar, and it'll give it a little bit of a sweeter taste. So I thought vanilla sugar was a fun one. The next one I chose to do, I did a couple different ones. I loved the gingerbread mix before. So when I made this gingerbread mix, I thought, oh, let's just make a gingerbread sugar too, so that when I want to have toast, I can put my butter on and then sprinkle a little bit of this on there and have a little bit of a gingerbread toast. So I did the same thing, 4 tablespoons of sugar and a tablespoon of the gingerbread spice mix that we just made, and made a gingerbread sugar. So that was kind of cheating, but it was fun. And then allspice and clove, same kind of thing. I took allspice and clove and put it in the sugar. So there's some really fun ideas. There's a couple other flavors. You can do a cayenne in sugar. That's really good in chocolate and chocolate chip cookies. It works really well. Anywhere you use anything with chocolate, throw in a little bit of cayenne. And then orange, lime, and lemon zest. And I didn't have any oranges today. It's not quite, I haven't bought any lately, and I didn't have any lemon zest and orange zest, but you can just put that in your sugar too. Just let your oranges peel them and let them dry. So you'd have to let them dry for a little bit and then put them in your sugar, and you'll flavor up that sugar. There's a mint you can use with your mint, star anise, cardamom, and espresso and ginger. So there's lots of ideas. Basically anything that you like to flavor it with, you can try. And that works really good. Now the last thing I want to tell you a little bit about is flavored butters. So as long as, I mean, you were flavoring sugar, let's flavor our butters too. And there's so many fun things, and chefs actually do this all the time. They call it compounded butter. And so they take all these flavors and compound it in there and use it. And so it's kind of a fun thing for us to try at home. Most of us just use regular old butter, so this works good. So there's a couple different recipes that I gave you. I'm gonna do 2 of them. The third one that I'm not doing is a pumpkin spice butter, and the only reason I didn't do it is because it takes, this is kind of silly, but it takes 1 tablespoon of pumpkin puree, and I didn't want to open a big old can of pumpkin for 1 tablespoon. So when I make pumpkin bread this fall or pumpkin pies, I'll pull out a tablespoon and make this butter, because it would be wonderful on our beehive rolls for Thanksgiving. So there's a heads up for you, try that. And the pumpkin spice butter you can use on French toast, you can use on toast, pancakes, waffles, and of course the rolls and beehive rolls, which would be great. So what you are going to do is just take normal salted butter, and I just went and bought just the big pound size, and then I've just let them sit on my counter for the night, so they're just soft. They're not, you're not going to melt them in the oven or anything like that. You just want them like soft, not hard from the fridge. And so this is a pound of butter. Okay, so we're going to make the brown sugar cinnamon honey butter. And what it calls for is 3, okay, so this recipe I gave you is a 1/4 cup, or excuse me, it's a 1/2 cup, so it's 1 stick of butter. I just did a pound, so I did this quadruple. Okay, so the recipe's quadruple. And that's what so it's up to you what you want to make, but I'm doing it 4 times. So this is, it only calls for a 1/4 cup, but I gave it a cup of brown sugar. This is your ground cinnamon, and there's 4 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. Okay, and then your honey, and it's 4 tablespoons of honey. So we're going to pour that. This is going to be a sticky mess. We're going to pour that all over. And then all you do, and you don't necessarily have to do this in a mixer, like in a KitchenAid mixer or anything like that. You're just going to mix it in the bowl. I know it's silly I'm using a knife. Let's use my spatula. That'll work a little bit better. And you're going to mix that up, and it's going to make a really fun butter. And the sugar it's not going to be too sweet because you have the salt from the butter to offset it. And I'm not mixing this probably as much as I should. I just want to show you kind of how it comes out. So the brown sugar is the hardest thing to mix in this. Can you see how we're looking there? It doesn't even look like butter. But my gosh, this is going to be great on toast or breakfast in the morning. Okay, now there's a couple things you can do with this. You can take a piece of parchment paper if you'd like, and you can make a log. And I did this earlier with the other recipe I did was the garlic butter. And this is the garlic butter. So I rolled it in the parchment paper and made kind of like a log. I guess I could have made a nicer looking log, but there you get the idea. And then you can give these as gifts for if you wanted to give them like a loaf of bread for Christmas, or some soup bowls. Remember we talked about Janie Lou's last month, so soup bowls or anything like that that you would use garlic butter with. And roll those up and then take our little Christmas twine. Last year we had the tulle and the twine, and we're having that again this year, so you could tie those up with that. And there's a cute little fun neighbor gift. Didn't cost you but just a little bit of butter. And then the other thing about having a log is keep this in your fridge. And what I would probably do is wrap this in plastic wrap so that it stays a little fresher, because the paper's not going to keep it quite as fresh. Wrap it in plastic wrap, and then when you cook steak, and a long time we talked about steak, and you can just cut off one little slab and put it on your hot steak as it comes out of the broiler, and it'll be like going to Ruth Chris, but without the cost. But anyways, so that's an idea. Now the other choice you have, if you don't want to use the parchment paper, you can find those little jars, and these make great butter jars. This size, it's not very big, it's the canning jars. And then I find these little lids, and these aren't the normal lids. Remember, we usually come with these metal lids, but I prefer to use these plastic lids. They're just made by Ball, and they come like in a case, in a little box of 12. You can get either the wide mouth or the regular, and they're just reusable. And so you can put those on, and it's just easier. When you're putting it in the fridge and you're getting it in and out, it's nicer to have that little lid. So you can go ahead and put your honey butter just in one of those jars, if you prefer to do it that way instead of putting it in the parchment. I would probably put the honey butter in the jar, because you're going to be getting it in and out every day to put it on your food. Look how fun. There's cinnamon, brown sugar, cinnamon, honey butter. And then I would probably roll the garlic butter up, just because it'd be easier to spread. You could slice a little piece and spread that on your bread or whatever you're making garlic butter with. That's pretty much what I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed some of the ideas we have with our spices. Be adventuresome, go out there and try some new different flavors, and enjoy.